Hey there, home theater fans. This is Todd with avnirvana.com. I'm here at ISE 2025, and I'm about to step in and have a chat with Jim Garrett of JBL. We're going to talk all about what they're showing here in terms of synthesis products and 2 new amps with built-in DSP that they're launching this March. All right, Jim, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you, folks.
Yep.
This is Jim Garrett with Harman. And Jim, I just experienced another killer demo. Wow. Okay, that's
that's the response we like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, really excellent. I love, like I was just saying to you, the size of the room, but also just the presentation is something else.
Yep. Yeah, this is a great demo for us. We've had this room here in a couple years now at CEDIA, or at ISE. Sorry,
ISE.
Similar one that we've done at CEDIA. But yeah, here at ISE in Barcelona, Spain, I would say, not to be confused with CEDIA in Denver, Colorado, but showcasing our JBL synthesis systems. You got to hear 2 different ones in there, smaller system and a larger system, and just a beautiful room in there as well.
Yeah, let's start off with the smaller system, because you say smaller, but it doesn't come across as small.
Yeah,
It still sounds very robust. So,
yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah, so we're showcasing the scalability of what we can do with a synthesis system. So with the new speakers that we came out with just a couple of years ago, we're using the SCL6, SCL7, some of the smaller, more traditional in-wall type of speakers to do that lower system. Right. And we're actually running it off one of the AVRs. Then the bigger system is all our larger, much larger speakers, up to the flagship SCL1s and the SSW1, and we're doing that with the more elaborate processor in there. So the price point's quite a bit higher. Okay. Both systems, though, are really 7.4.4 configuration, so it's not, you know, a crazy high channel count system.
Do you have a ballpark on pricing for the 2?
I've not added them up in here. I would think, given that the bigger systems now using the SDP75 in it, that alone is probably pushing it up into 150, 175,000 or so for the big system.
Expensive,
the little system more 30,000, somewhere in that range. Again, I would have to do the math, but it's pretty close to, we've done the similar systems at CEDIA as well, so that's around the price tags of where we had them.
Awesome. Well, we've got some gear right here.
We do. So these are the electronics that were in that room. Yes.
Yeah. So show us what the smaller system was using first here.
So what you're looking at here are basically the electronics that we have in the synthesis range, starting with the AVR. So the SDR38 is a G-class powered AVR. That's actually here in the middle. So this is our high-end premium AVR. It's a 16-channel device. It's got everything that you need in it to go with it, and then we make a preamp version of it, which is the SDP58. So they're pretty much identical, other than the fact that this one is a straight-up preamplifier.
So this one has amplification built in.
Yeah, so amplification built in.
This is just a preamp.
G-class amplifier power, rated really like 100 watts, but our G-class technology is pretty high-performance amplifier, so don't let the power rating fool anyone in that respect. It's capable of driving a complete system off of it, but only 7 channels of power. We chose quality over quantity in terms of it, so if you're doing more than 7 channels with it, you'll need outboard amplification, which we certainly have right next to it. And then this is just the preamp version, so 16 XLR outputs on the back of this, and you go to outboard amplification on it. So typically, in bigger systems where we're using larger speakers or a higher number of channels in there, we tend to go with the processor version and use outboard amplification. This is actually a new piece here at the show, SDP80, which is an upgrade of the SDP75 that we've had. This is a 36-channel surround processor, and this is part of our certified elite system, so it's the higher channel count, more elaborate calibration that's required to put that into the system. So the 75, this has everything the 75 has in it, but now it has HDMI 2.1 capability in it. But we had just recently upgraded the 75 with new DACs, new power supply, new motherboard, all of those things that gave it faster switching capability and improved sound quality. Now this just upgrades the HDMI board to be in it as well. So we're actually, what you were hearing in there is this platform for the big system. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. What kind of room correction are these running?
So in these we use Dirac, and it's actually part of our system. So when you buy these products, then we include direct room correction with them with multi-sub capability, because every synthesis system does multiple subs. This is actually using the optimizer. This is based on the Trenoff platform, so
Sure.
we use the optimizer room correction on this particular platform, but we still do it to the Harman target curve. So we do all of our usual like base management and our room correction to our target curve, even though we're using the optimizer platform to get it there.
Right.
So it's really the same calibration, it's just two different technologies based on the product.
Now, since this is running that Trenoff processing, does it
Yeah.
have waveforming capability
It
yet?
can if you want it. It's not part of the product and we're not really promoting that, but it is capable of doing it.
Yeah.
So we obviously are very science-based in all of what we're doing with these products. Our sound field management is how we do bass response. We've done it for decades, and a lot of the industry standards, even the new RP22 standards, are based around the research that we've done at Harman. And so by using 2 or 4 subwoofers, we feel that we can really optimize the bass performance in there.
Yeah.
The waveforming obviously uses a lot more subwoofers, and so there's the realities of, are people going to do it? I think it's still a little to be proved on what it's going to do. You've heard the demos at the shows, and that's one thing, and then the reality of what are people going to do in the rooms. When you're at these price points, though, in these higher channel count systems, the likelihood of there being 4 subs certainly increases more so than products at this level, but it's you know,
Right.
it's the rarity.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we can see the backside of these.
Yes,
guys,
we can.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we come around back here, this is the back of the SDP58. This is the back of the SDR. So the receiver, you can see pretty much all of the connectivity is identical between these 2 units. It's just the fact that this one has a G-Class amplifier built into
So
it.
this guy does have preamp outs.
Yes,
For
because you
all
still
channels?
need to run the additional channels. So it's a 16-channel platform,
Correct.
but only 7
Oh,
channels
right.
of power.
Okay. So
Yep.
the amplifier. Okay.
Yes, whereas this is just pre-outs for everything, but we have them in XLRs because you're going to go out to one of our power amps with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the same thing here. So on these platforms, if you're familiar with the SDP75 or the Trenoff Altitude platform, 16 for the XLRs and then the D-sub connectors to do the additional channels on it. And this can be done up to 36 channels on this one. So those are what we do for the front end. On the power
Just
amp
real
side.
quick.
Yeah.
In terms of sub out, no XLR on this.
No.
It's just RCA out.
Yep.
For that.
Yep. Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And we can do 2 subs on these, but we can still do subs in the amplifier processing. So when we're doing sound field management or some of those other things, we can still do it in the amplifiers.
Okay.
So we have a couple of different amplifiers. This is a 7-channel amplifier that's also G-Class. So it's very similar to the power amp that's built into the AVR. This is a 2-channel amp that's much higher power, but still G-Class in it. We tend to use these. This is either a stereo or bridgeable to a mono amplifier. So some of the bigger LCRs tend to get used with this particular amplifier. But these are straight up power amps. There's no DSP or any capability on them. This is a dedicated amp for the smallest end wall subwoofer that we have, the SSW4.
Oh, cool.
So the SDA 1700 can run that. It's got the right EQ and compressor limiter, everything that you need to just kind of plug and play with that particular subwoofer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a price point thing for us. So this is a more affordable amplifier solution to go with that subwoofer. Then the core pieces that we use, these are 2 new amplifiers that are actually here at the show. They'll be in production here in just a few weeks and available in the market around the March timeframe. But we had been using one of our Pro-based amplifiers from Crown Technology, SDA 8300 and 4600 have used that amp for quite a while.
Okay.
The connectivity on it was still Pro, you know, Phoenix connectors and barrier strips and things like that. We have developed this platform specifically for synthesis. So 2 amps here, the SMA-4750, the SMA-8300, 8x300, and 4x750. And then these are bridgeable.
Wow.
So you can get a lot of power out of them. You can see on the sides, we've moved the venting to the sides, just in a residential equipment rack. It keeps everything a little quieter than the Pro stuff that's venting out the fronts of the units. There's a high-powered DSP capability in these, so You can do all our compressor, limiter, drop down, speaker EQ, tuning files in there. Matrix switching can be done. And there's a full color front display, so you can do it all through that. There's a web GUI that you can configure the products on. And then we have digital networking capability through Dante and AES67 capabilities, so that you can network the amplifiers if you want to as well. So these tend to be the workhorse of a synthesis system, where you're going to get, you know, 6, 8, 10 of these in a rack to typically power a lot of the systems.
Why the DSP built in to the amp rather than just relying what's going on with the ADR?
It gives us a lot more DSP power than what we can have in those products. So specifically when it comes to being able to, you know, do channel delays or things like that, you could actually expand beyond a 16-channel system by using delays and arraying channels with these things. But also when it comes to the subwoofers, there's just not enough processing power in there to do what we're really doing with the passive subs. So these amps are required to do that anyways. We just put all the power into these, the DSP power and the amplifier power, right, combined into these. But also incredibly high power platforms. Like this will do 1800 watts times 2 in its bridged mode, which is like, you know, pro levels of amplification. But that's what we do when we do the bigger subs, like the SSW1, the SSW2, they'll get run with these. Sometimes some of the bigger LCRs, if you just ran this in 750 watt 4-channel mode, then you could use bigger LCRs to drive it. And then the 8300 just is kind of the workhorse, you know, sides, rears, height channels tend to get driven off of this amplifier. At 300 watts, it's still a lot of power, but it's not nearly what we do with the bigger guys for the big main channel speakers.
And are these in use here today? Or are they...
These are actually brand new. So we're using the current amplifiers in there right now.
Okay.
Because these are just now going into production. Okay. These are real functioning samples, but we only have one of each.
If you have the functioning samples in there also, but no.
Yeah, no, there just aren't enough of them in existence at this point in time yet. So they're still every unit that's been built so far is undergoing final testing and making sure everything's ready to go. So we do listening tests with them. Of course, all the electrical testing and safety and certifications, everything is being finalized on them right now. So yes, these are functioning amps, but we're still using the current models in that theater here today.
Well, speaking of subs and speakers, let's go check out.
We'll show you what's
statics out here for us to look at.
We do. So you again heard two different systems in there. When we're on this side of it, you get a little bit of a combination of the systems here. So this is the SCL1, which you've seen this speaker before, showed you this.
The Beast.
And this is the Beast, yeah. So there's actually 3 of these as the behind the screen LCRs. This is what's used for the larger system. Dual 12s, that's our dual 3-inch compression driver in the middle. And this is a completely configurable product. There's a control panel on the bottom, and so you can single wire, by wire. You can do outboard active electronic crossover. You can use the integrated crossover if you want to. So there's a lot of flexibility to how you can configure that speaker. But capability-wise, this is next level, right?
And that was shown in the second part of the demo.
That was the second half of the demo. So you got, I think, 2 cuts you heard in the first system, 4 cuts on the second one. That's the second one.
That's right.
The first system is the SCL6. So this is obviously a very different level from price point, size, but it's all the same technology. We're still using our patented compression drivers in these. This is a 1-inch single diaphragm, annular ring diaphragm that we use in this product. And then this is our advanced aluminum matrix cone technology. This is a large ferrite motor, cast frame. All the patented Harman things that we do in JBL motor structures are used in these products. So this is left, center, right in that main system. Then we use the smaller SCL7 as surrounds. This, as you can see back here behind the plant, we have an off-axis horn on that one. So that allows us to do some, flexible placement depending on where you're at for the sides. But even this small one, it can actually work as a nice LCR speaker. And with that angled horn, if you're in a smaller room or you need to go below or above a TV, then we can aim the high frequencies up or down in that respect.
Very cool.
That's what was used for the fronts. These are being used as the height channels in here. This is the SCL5 and the SCL8, which are basically the same speaker, one just scaled up with a larger woofer, a larger compression driver, but the same core technology. There's a number of patents that we put into this one with the acoustic aperture over the woofer, Of course, the high definition imaging geometry that's in the horn.
Yep.
And then the fact that it's round. I mean, this is an off-axis design that's pretty consistent coverage from 0 degrees on axis to about 60 degrees off axis.
Wow.
So these work really, really well for height channels, but they can also be in-ceiling surrounds, in-ceiling LCRs, a couple different ways that you can use those products in there. But we're using them exclusively for height channels in the demo that you just heard.
Are all synthesis exclusively compression drivers?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And what's the reasoning behind that? I mean, there's
performance capabilities, just because it's so much higher performance than what you can get. We get much lower distortion in them. We get incredible dynamic capability with them. And the patented compression drivers that we're using in these, what we call the D2 family, but it was designed in our Northridge facility. These are all annular ring diaphragms with a unique phase plug in them. So the performance takes what you can get out of a traditional compression driver, takes it many, many steps above. And again, super, super low distortion, incredibly high dynamic capability, detail for days. It's just a much better mousetrap. So we use that exclusively in everything. We go all the way from this small 1-inch diaphragm up into, in the case of this one, dual 3-inch diaphragms. So the platform of the compression driver family scales. And even in this case, even though these are both 1-inch diaphragms, this is a much larger motor structure that's on this one. So greater power handling, more dynamic capability, greater output capability out of that, but it's still through a 1-inch
and these fives are in use in the demo room right now?
Yep, that was the height channel you heard.
Yeah.
I think you heard the Quiet Place scene,
which
had a lot of activity happening.
One of the best
channels.
One of the best to hear. Yeah.
So that was there. So you got a lot of that detail and that, there was a lot of dynamics in that scene too. It's creepy.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the movie.
But you've seen that scene
don't need to see the movie.
About 10 times, right? 100 times.
Yeah, so let's come over here. So we'll start here on the wall. This is the SCL2, and that was what was being used for the surround channels in the larger system.
Okay.
So these were the sides and the rears, but this of course can be a large format LCR. This is also the same compression driver technology. This is a dual 1.5 inch, and then we've got 3 8-inch woofers in this speaker.
It's a really interesting hump.
Yes, this is part of the high definition imaging geometry that we do. So all our horn development has gone through decades, and it's, refine, iterate, and how we can improve them. This was something that we came up with 8-9 years ago or so. We're looking at the performance down in the throat itself. What kind of distortion were we getting down in the throat of the horn? Of course, the coverage pattern of the horns in this case is a symmetrical one, but we were also looking at the oblique angles and different performance rather than just simple horizontal and vertical performance out of them, but just ways to, again, continue to evolve horns so that we can have the ultimate level of performance. Obviously, compression drivers with a horn is just a much more effective way to couple to the air so we can get much higher performance out of it.
Sure.
But not have any of the typical things that people would say, of colored sound, cup sound, or anything like these. Don't sound like horns at all, but they have all of the advantages of horns. So it really makes them unique.
They're very smooth. During playback.
Yeah.
Which
I don't think most, other than what you're hearing from the dynamic and the detail capability, you don't realize what you're listening to as a compression driver and a horn.
Right. Agreed.
So here's the low end of what you were listening to. Actually, in the smaller system, we were using the dual 8-inch in wall, and that's where I showed you that first amplifier in there.
Okay.
So, and that's a retro-capable dual 8-inch driver. It fits in standard 2x4 construction.
And that's very impressive. I mean, that was dealing it.
Yeah, there's 4 of them in there, but it's still a good-sized room, and to get that kind of response out of them, pretty impressive. Obviously, it was a different level of bass response on the second system that you heard. That's the SSW1. There's 2 of these at the front of the room. And then the smaller version, the SSW2, there's 2 of these in the back of the room. That goes back to sound field management, how we do bass response in them. So the 2 of these at the front corners of the room, the 2 of these at the rear corner of the room.
Right.
And then that placement alone helps, of course, eliminate a lot of the equalization that needs to be done. But then we still go in and do sound field management to minimize that seat-to-seat variation, so that the experience that you had, and I think you were offset to one side.
I was, but it still sounded.
The bass is still pretty consistent. Good. If you'd been in any of the other 10 seats in there, you would have had a very similar response to it.
Right.
But then we also do a sub-to-main blend as well too, so that the subs are properly integrated with the full-range channels that are running above them.
And that bass management, that was being run by the Trent processing, or is that JBL?
We typically do it in the amplifiers.
Got it. Okay, so that's your own secret sauce.
Yeah, which is why we do the DSP and the amplifiers, so that we can do a lot of custom tuning on the subs.
Right.
So yes, that is a very capable subwoofer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's the size of this. I mean, it's almost like a coffin.
You
right?
could, you could live in it if you needed to.
You could live in it.
Yeah.
How much does this weigh?
In the shipping crate, it's about 530 pounds. I think dry, this is around 380 pounds, somewhere there. I mean, each of these drivers, these are 15s. I know it's hard to see the scale on camera, so here I'll put my hand next to it so you can see it. But these are 15-inch drivers with 6-inch voice coils on them and very large ferrite motor structures. So each driver is about 90 pounds, just the driver itself. And there's 2 of them in here. This is really divided down the middle. It's really 2 separate cabinets with 2 separate inputs, and each enclosure is ported. So one of these is ported to one side, the other one's ported to the other side.
Okay.
And this is our slipstream port technology that we use in them, so super low noise. You don't get the turbulence and chuffing you would get out of. There's a lot of air that moves out of these.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine.
I mean, this sub is good down into the mid to low teens in a room with some pretty serious output. So
which you can hear with that Quiet Place demo scene.
It's the bass that you feel rather than hear down there. Yeah.
Right. Infrasonics is like the new buzzword these days. Everybody's talking infrasonics.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and this has it. So, and then certainly when you put, we've had some customers that have put 4 of them in a single system, and that's adequate bass.
I can't even imagine. It looks like you could stack them if you wanted to.
If you wanted to. So the way that we built the enclosure was based on the rooms themselves. So in this configuration, this is about how much height you typically have below the projection screen in a room. So if you lay them on their sides, you can do it. The other part of it is if you've got the available width, you could stand it on its end in the corners of the room, outside of the left and right sides of the projection screen. So
Kinda
it gives some flexibility in what you can do. Yeah. Same thing with that. It's designed to stand up or lay down, either which way. And they do have fabric magnetic grills on the front, but once it's built in, you don't necessarily need the grill.
And it's interesting that you have the smaller guy running with the larger guy in your demo space.
Yeah.
Because typically people would say, don't do that, because the larger guy is going to be held back by what the smaller guy can't do, technically. But it sounds like your DSP is
part of the way, again, that we do sound field management and we do the tuning in the room, we're still using them in pairs. So this pair is doing the yeoman's work up front, if you will. So the heavy lifting is coming out of the sub in the front. The rear ones are really helping them fill in and refine that bass response throughout the room. So the fact that these can't play quite as deep as what these do, we're getting the output that we need already out of these, so it's an okay thing to have it in there.
Sure.
And in the case of that room, you can see the physical size difference between these. You typically don't have the space in the back of the room to put a sub this big in there.
Right.
And often you may even end up with in walls, like our dual 10-inch SSW3.
Right.
That's the sub that we had in the rear of the cinema at Cedia. Here we have a little more space in the back of the room, so these are actually in the rear wall, because we had that additional depth that we could put into this room. So it just gave us a little more capable subwoofer in the back of the room than we could have otherwise put. But that gets really big. If you're doing a full-on custom room, sure.
Make room for this. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Put 4 of them in there and you're good to go. Yeah.
You also want to cast lighting on it so everyone can see it. I mean, it is a stunning piece.
Yeah. Yeah. The mother of all subwoofers.
I'm assuming this is the same guy that makes an appearance at Cedia, this particular one?
Yep. Yeah, we had in Cedia this last fall, you heard that system there. There were 2 of these in the front of the room, but we did not have the space for that in that particular theater. So we were using the double 10s, and there were 4 of them in the back of the room, just to give us a little more displacement because we were limited to end-wall subs in the back of that room.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Awesome. Well,
Yes.
love hearing it. Love seeing all this stuff. Really appreciate you taking us on a little tour.
Yep.
Showing us what's going on. And the new amps are shipping, you said, around
They should
March?
be available in March for the U.S. market. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Awesome.
Jim, thanks so much.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Always a
And-
pleasure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see you next time in Denver, I
Yes,
guess.
we'll be back in Denver. Correct.
Yeah, back in the right time zones.
Yes, indeed.
All right, folks, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.